Okay. And we have people joining us. Terrific. For those of you joining, this is the MCS-DS, MCS-MCS-DS admissions webinar. We're going to give people a few more minutes to join us before we get started.
One thing we like to do as people are joining us is to type into the chat box where you're joining us from. It's always good to see all the different locations that that our new students are.
Can we get weather also in Fahrenheit?
And let's see, the other is the difference between the chat window and the question and answer window. So you'll have the opportunity to ask us questions, and to do that, you'll type those into the question and answer window. And then the chat window, we just use as a welcome. So make sure you don't type questions into the chat window, and you don't type your location and weather into the question and answer window. But as we're talking, feel free to type questions into the Q&A. And as one of us is talking, several others can be answering questions in that Q&A window.
Mm-hmm.
It is not warm and sunny in Chicago. Actually, it's probably warm and sunny for Chicago at this time of year.
All right, it is now 11 o'clock Central Time, and it looks like we have about 130 some people who have joined us. Shall we go ahead and get started?
That sounds great.
Okay, and so before we get started, we'll just go over some of the format for this webinar for those of you who have not joined us before. So this is the online MCS, MCS-DS admissions webinar. We will do a quick round of introductions. After that, I will share my desktop to show, to present a slide deck. And then once we go over the slide deck, we will answer questions in the Q&A and we'll also go through the Q&A as we're presenting the slide deck. And as John had mentioned, please use the Q&A for your questions versus the chat. And we'll continue to remind you along the way. And so let's go ahead with introductions. We can start with John, Desiree, Lisa, and then I will go last.
Great, thanks, thanks, Christine. Hello, everybody. My name is John Hart. I'm a professor of computer science. I teach data visualization, computer graphics, and other visual computing areas. I've been doing research in those areas for I've lost count, 30 years now. I'm also the director of online programs for the Department of Computer Science, including this online MCS.
Hi, I'm Desiree. I am one of the academic advisors for the MCS and MCS-DS programs.
Hello, my name is Lisa Jagoda, and I'm also one of the online academic advisors for this program.
Great, thank you. My name is Christine Martinez. I'm the coordinator for online programs for the Computer Science Department at the University of Illinois. So let us go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and share my desktop. Okay, can everybody see that okay?
Yep.
Yep, perfect, great. Okay, so again, this is the online MCS, MCS-DS admissions webinar. So we'll go into our first slide here. And welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning. So the topics we're going to cover this morning are application requirements, as well as application requirements for international students, tuition and financial aid. We'll go over some FAQs, application deadlines, and where to find information. Next up, next slide is what are we looking for in the application? John, would you like to speak to this?
Sure. just answering one of the questions. So we get a lot of applications, across many disciplines. About half of our students are coming to us with a bachelor's degree in a computing field, but another half are coming with a bachelor's degree in some other discipline, using the MCS as an opportunity to integrate computing into that discipline. And we've set the program up to be able to handle both students. Students coming from a computing bachelor's degree with a lot of computing classes. We look at GPA for entrance. For students coming from other disciplines, we need to see a decent amount of computing coursework in the transcript, either from your bachelor's degree or additional classes that you might pick up, from a local community college or an online undergraduate program. But it's helpful to have graded transcripted credit for undergraduate for undergraduate computing coursework. And so for admissions, Christine, remind me, is this audience students that have applied or have been admitted, or
potential applicants?
Potential applicants, good. So you're working on your application. The things that we'll look for in applications are that you have to have a bachelor's degree. If you're applying for a master's degree, you have to have a bachelor's degree. At least you have to have a bachelor's degree by the time you would start the master's degree. Again, that bachelor's degree doesn't need to be in computing, but it does need to have sufficient prerequisites in data structures, algorithms, object-oriented programming and design, linear algebra, basic stats and probability. And then a GPA that is at least 3.2 on a 4.0 scale. And we will, we have a crack team of admissions people, including our advisors, that can compute the appropriate GPA for you if your GPA is not on a 4.0 scale. And then we also look at your GPA and your application holistically. We look at the entire application, everything you submit. And for the GPA, we'll look at your GPA after for your 4 years of undergrad, or however long your undergrad took. We'll look at your GPA for the last 2 years. We'll look at your GPA for computer science coursework. We'll also look at your GPA for subsequent coursework you took, especially if it's in computer science. And we'll weigh all of that together in making an admissions decision, looking for any of those components that might be 3.2 or higher. And when you're filling out your application, there's going to be specific line items asking for data structures, algorithms, object-oriented programming, linear algebra, and stats and probability. That's your opportunity to point out to us where you have the strongest background in those areas. And the strongest is if you have a transcripted graded course in those areas. And it's also strongest if you have separate courses in each of those areas. If not, you can list the same course if it overlaps. Sometimes you get data structures and algorithms in the same course or so on. But we want to see several courses in computing that you can point to in those specific questions. So point them out to us, give us the course number, the course name, when you took it, where you took it, what grades you got. Put those in the application where they're asked for them, and that'll help us find them in your transcript. And that allows us to give you every chance we can to get admitted into this program.
Okay, great. So the next slide, John goes more into detail about programmability.
Yep. So we get a lot of students that have some computing classes, but are missing a key prerequisite class for all of our graduate classes, and that class is data structures. And so we've developed a data structures proficiency exam for the online MCS, so that if you have, programming classes, you may have been working as a software engineer for several years, but there are some key algorithmic data structure, programming, and object-oriented design details that'll be necessary for graduate work at a top 5 program in computer science. And we cover those largely in our data structures course. If you don't have a data structures class, you can take this proficiency exam in order to show your ability in data structures. And the best way to prepare for that data structure proficiency exam is that we've developed a MOOC specialization sequence of three MOOCs, three massively open online courses open to the general public, taught by one of our top faculty members, Wade Fagan Olmenschneider, who teaches our undergraduates 225 also, the data structures class. And so that's available to help you prepare for this proficiency exam. And it covers all the material that would then be asked in that proficiency exam. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that. It's one of our highest ranked MOOC specialization sequences. And so I'll point you to that if you want to bolster your application with that particular data structures prerequisite.
Great. And then Lisa did just post the link for the specialization if everybody wants to take a look at that if you're interested. So next up, we're going to jump into application requirements. Let's see, and I can speak to this, John, unless you would prefer to.
Go ahead.
Okay, great. So application requirements, and Lisa did post this also in the chat. And so what you need to do if you are interested in applying and being reviewed for admission is to submit an application. So first step there, and then also submit an application fee. The application fee for domestic students is $70 and $90 for international students. And then there are letters of recommendation. So you may submit 3 letters of recommendations. They are not required, but are reviewed in instances where we may need to look for work experience or CS related experience, and also reviewed for instances where an applicant is requesting English proficiency waivers based on employment history. And so if you're going to submit 3 letters of recommendations, the preference is that they come from professional or academic, faculty, supervisor, and colleague. Next, you could submit a statement of purpose, again, not required, but is optional. And then also CV or resume. What is really required is transcripts. When submitting an application, you're required to submit unofficial applications that list all of your transcripted coursework, along with the individual course titles and the grades that you received in those courses. To make the application review smoother and to ensure that your application is reviewed, please be sure that your transcripts and credentials that you upload is legible, readable. If you scan it, upload it, and if you can't read it yourself, then that means that the admission staff are not able to read it. So just make sure it's a clear upload when you upload that transcript. And then the other thing is standardized tests. These are not required, so you're not required to submit a GRE or GMAT.
Yep. And so just to reiterate those, the only thing that's really required is that you have to submit an application, you have to pay the application fee, and you have to upload your transcripts. That's the main criteria we're looking for in terms of GPA, a bachelor's degree, and your prerequisites. But we do holistic admissions. We will look at all the materials you provide to us. So if you think a letter of recommendation can speak to some programming ability, some specific programming ability that doesn't come out in your transcript, then feel free to include that or any of these other things to help us in evaluating your application.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, next we have additional requirements for international students. And so here there are some additional requirements for international students. We recommend reviewing these requirements by country off of the Graduate College website. And there is the URL for that there, and then English proficiency requirements. So English proficiency requirements is submitting an English proficiency exam for TOEFL, IBT. The minimum score required is a 103. For IELTS, it's 7.5, and currently the Graduate College is accepting Duolingo, not Duolingo, and the minimum score there is 125. And all of the, for TOEFL and IELTS, the score should be less than 2 years old by the proposed term of entry. And then you can see here for Duolingo exam, the scores are being accepted for exams taken between February 1st and August 2021. There are exemption waivers, and those can be, Lisa, could you post that link to the chat as well? So students can review that, but there are exemption waivers for academic and employment history. And you can review those in the URL for that. Okay. Next up, tuition and financial aid. Lisa, did you want to cover tuition really quick?
Sure. So tuition for the MCS MCS-DS program is $670 per credit hour. So that is a total of a little over $21,000 for the complete 32 credit hour degree. As far as financial aid goes, the Department of Computer Science does not offer any research or teaching assistantships to students in the online programs, which includes the online MCS, MCS-DS. But sponsored billing is available. So when some or all of a student's tuition and fees are paid by a sponsoring organization, such as your place of employment, the student and organization may qualify to participate. There is more information about that on our bursar's office website, and I will post the link to that in the chat.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Let me add a few points. That was great, Lisa. On tuition, we've tried to keep this very affordable. That tuition is significantly reduced from what we charge our on-campus students. If you're taking these courses on campus, you would expect to pay $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 for the degree. So it's much more affordable. In addition to tuition, you may also need to pay for things like books, some of the programming is cloud-based Amazon Web Services programming, and so we provide credits to students for Amazon Web Services and other cloud platforms. But many of our students want to, work beyond what's provided in the credits, and so you may want to purchase some of your own cloud time to work further in a cloud environment. So just a heads up on some of those additional costs. Also, we proctor our exams using a service called ProctorU. It's kind of like an Uber service, and that makes sure that when we offer exams, that everybody is graded and assessed fairly. That's one of our points of emphasis, is that we have it's a tough program. It signals that you've passed one of the most rigorous computer science programs out there, and part of that is that the exams are proctored, and so those proctoring fees are paid for by each student, because they can vary depending on how many classes you take and when you want to take the exams and so on. And so that's typically $40 to $50 per class that you take might go towards proctoring fees. Some of the classes don't have proctored exams, they have other assessments, but for the ones that do, you may need to pay $40 to $50 a class for proctoring. So those are all the additional fees that you might run into, but it's still $23,000 for the master's degree, which is makes it very affordable compared to the on-campus degree. And then finally, the degree is fully eligible for financial aid, and that's because it's fully accredited by the same accrediting agency that accredits all University of Illinois degrees. The MCS that you get online is the same MCS degree that students get on campus, same one we've been offering online since the 90s, and in the department for decades before that.
Okay, great. So that concludes the set of slides for typical admission questions that we get. We kind of went over those fairly quickly because everybody should have gotten a link to admissions video that covers admission requirements in detail. So if you have not reviewed that video yet, please do so. Next, we're going to jump into FAQs. So John, I'll go ahead and just call these out if you want to address them. So first couple FAQs are, what is the online MCS and what is the MCS-DS?
Great. So we have a single MCS program, and that program is 8 courses, 4 courses in 4 different proficiency areas, and 3 500 level courses, which leaves room for at least 1 elective. And these are courses designed for professional preparation. So the MCS is not designed for research. We would steer students towards an MS and a PhD, working more closely with an advisor. But if you want to become a working professional in computer science, then the MCS is the degree for you. The online MCS is just the version of that we offer online. It meets the exact same requirements. It's taught by the exact same people, and it's accredited in the exact same agency. And we offer it on the Coursera platform, and that allows us to provide it to all of the students that are looking for it, to be able to reach all of those students beyond the limitations we had previously before we started partnering with Coursera and the Coursera platform to be able to offer this at scale. And then the MCS-DS is just a subset. It's a curriculum of courses in the MCS that satisfies the MCS degree, but does so with courses focusing on data science. There is no MCS-DS degree. The degree is MCS. And so the next question, what will appear on your diploma or transcript is just a Master of Computer Science from the University of Illinois. Nothing about online, nothing about data science, but on your resume, you can list the MCS-DS degree, and employers know what MCS-DS means. We've been able to get the message out about our data science degree, that all you have to do is list it on your resume, and employers will know that you not only have a degree that makes you a top computer science professional, but also a top data science professional, that one with a computer science background that allows you to build the tools to do data science instead of just using other people's tools.
Great. Next set of questions then is, how is the online MCS offered using the Coursera MOOC platform, and how are the online MCS courses different than the typical Coursera MOOCs?
Great. So on the Coursera platform, there are MOOCs that are available to the general public, and then there are courses that we offer only to enrolled University of Illinois students that are only available to them, and those are available for course credit. University of Illinois doesn't give course credit, university credit for any MOOC course open to the general public. MOOCs are great for learning, but the courses incorporate both learning and assessment that you need to for a proper credential in computer science to signal to a future employer, anybody else that you're working with, about your expertise in computer science. And so that's the main difference. So our online courses are offered on the same platform as Coursera MOOCs are offered. And that's because the video lessons we use, the lectures, are available as Coursera MOOCs. But in addition to those lectures that can be viewed by the general public, and you can do some of the classroom exercises as a member of the general public, you don't get access to the instructor, teaching assistants, and more importantly, the proctored exams, the semester-long projects, what we call MP machine problems, which are rigorous programming assignments that we require of our students. Those are only available if you take the course for credit. So what I like to compare this to is, on campus, you can sign up for a course for credit, enroll, register for a course and take the course, and you get graded at the end and you're doing all of the assignments. You can also sit in on a class, which means you just show up for the lectures. You might do some classroom assignments, but you don't get a grade at the end of the class. Nothing goes on your transcript, and you don't have to do all the major assignments of the class. You don't do the exam for the class. You might still learn the material, but you've got no evidence that you've learned that material other than that knowledge. So that sitting in experience is similar to what's available as a Coursera MOOC versus taking a class as an enrolled University of Illinois student registered for the class for course credit.
Okay, great. Next up is, do the 2 Coursera MOOC courses and 4 credit portion need to be taken concurrently?
Our 4 credit courses are 15 weeks long. Our semesters, fall and spring, are 15 weeks long, and summer it's 12 weeks, but we compress the material so we cover the same amount of material. And so those, a typical MOOC available to the general public is 4 weeks or so. So many of our courses are split into 2 or 3 MOOCs available to the general public if you want to see just the lecture portion. What you can do is you can take the lecture portion, you can see the MOOC in advance, and you can even do some of the assignments. And in some cases, the work that you've done in that MOOC can transfer towards the 4 credit portion when you later take the 4 credit portion. We don't recommend doing that. It's these courses are very carefully designed. We invest a lot of effort and design work into these courses to synchronize the lectures with the assignments to make sure you're getting the right material at the right time. That's the best way to learn this material. But those MOOCs and the video lessons, the lectures are available to you currently. You can go to them now and take a look at them for many courses. And I'd encourage you to do that to get a heads up about a course, to make sure you've got the background you need for that course, or if you need to go in and look at some other material beforehand. For example, if you're taking cloud computing concepts, that's going to require some low-level C programming. You might take a look at the cloud computing concepts MOOCs to see what level that is, to see if cloud computing concepts is a better course for you, or cloud computing applications is a better course for you.
Okay. Next question we often get is, I completed a Coursera specialization. Will I earn graduate credits at the University of Illinois?
Lisa, what's the answer to that question?
No, completing specializations does not earn any graduate credit. You have to actually be enrolled in the 4 credit portion of the course through the university to receive academic credit.
Thanks. That was
perfect. Yep. Okay, so that moves us to the next set of questions. Are students expected to be proficient in a particular programming language?
That's a good question. So many of our students that are coming in know Python and some scripting languages, maybe JavaScript. Other students know production programming languages like C++ and Java. We expect our students coming in to have familiarity, have programmed in Python and a scripting language like Python and a production language like C++ or Java. But more importantly, as a graduate student in computer science, we expect our students to be able to pick up a language in a matter of weeks. And it's not unusual for you to be learning a new language with each new class you take. And we often focus our class and use platforms and languages and other libraries that are best suited for the topic we're teaching. So it's good to have a background and have a favorite programming language, but also be eager to learn new programming languages. There are better programming languages out there, and you will develop the skills to pick up any programming language in a matter of a few weeks and be able to write good code in that language.
Okay. Next question, maybe Desiree, you could take this one. How do students apply for the online MCS or MCS-DS?
Yeah, so students need to apply through the for the program through the application link and the on our website through the University of Illinois. So if you go to the CS department website and go to our online MCS program, there is a link there, and the application is currently open for summer. And so we must have an application submitted through that portal in order for an applicant to be considered for the program.
Okay, terrific, thank you. Okay, what if my undergraduate GPA is less than a 3.0 on a 4.0 scale? John?
That's a really good question. You are not doomed for life. We look at applications My own undergraduate GPA is not super stellar. We know that these things happen. I had an undergraduate student 15 years ago that nearly flunked out of class. He is now he's now a professor at a university whose computer science program is ranked higher than Illinois's. We know that students get better. We know that students go through issues. If your total GPA is less than 3.0, then take some computer science classes, especially if you can do upper division computer science classes, either online if they're available at an undergraduate level, or at a local community college or a local four-year institution, and prove to us that you're better than your undergraduate GPA shows, and we will gladly look at that and take that into consideration. We admit students all the time that have shown us that they're strong in computer science with recent coursework in computer science past the bachelor's degree.
Okay, terrific. So next question, do international students in these programs receive an I-20? Desiree, could you speak to that?
Yeah, so students in this program do not receive an I-20, and the I-20 is specifically for students who are international. So if you are somebody who's considering this program that is considered a domestic student, so from the United States, this wouldn't apply to you. Students are not able to receive the I-20 because that is a visa issued for students who come and study on campus. And since this is a fully online program, it is not required for students to come to campus to actually study.
Perfect, thank you. Next up, will non-degree graduate students be able to take online MCS courses? And the answer is yes. Okay.
Go ahead, Christine.
Okay, yeah, so our online MCS courses are available to non-degree students. However, enrollment is limited based on capacity after our degree-seeking students have enrolled in the courses. If you have additional inquiries about that, you can email us at mcs@cs.illinois.edu. Go ahead, John.
One related question we get is that after once you take 8 courses, we give you your MCS degree, whether you want it or not, you've got it. Bam. And then we have many students that still want to take courses that, still want to learn, especially when new courses open up, and we welcome them back. Illinois is devoted to lifelong learning. Once you're an Illinois student, you're always an Illinois student. And so you can continue to take those courses as new topics come up. Then you can come back to Illinois and we will take care of you.
Great. My slides are going a little wonky here. Okay, next question. Is financial aid available for online MCS students?
Yes. The online MCS is fully accredited. It's fully available, fully eligible for federal financial aid. And so you can apply for financial aid that might be available from your government or your employer or any other anything else available to you. With that said, computer science doesn't have scholarships or assistantships available for MCS students.
Okay. And then the final question is, when will applications for the next admission cycle open? So that is listed here in this next slide. And as you can see, we have 3 points of entry. So for the fall admission, the application deadline is May 30th, and then the decision deadline will be July 15th. For spring admission, the application deadline is October 15th with a decision deadline of November 30th. And for summer admission, application deadline is February 15th with a decision deadline of March 31st. And you can review these deadlines at the URL provided at the bottom of the slide. And I believe this is our last slide here, where to find information. So the link to the application, there's the URL right there, and I believe Lisa posted it in chat as well. We do have program websites. They're separate for each online MCS and online MCS-DS. Requirements by countries can be found off of the Graduate College website, And then TOEFL and IELTS waiver information can also be found on the program website and the graduate college website as well. And then again, application deadlines. And should you have additional questions after this webinar is over, please email us at mcs@cs.illinois.edu. So that concludes the slide deck. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And then we can jump into Q&A. Before we jump into the Q&A, we do have another panelist who joined us, so I'd like to give her an opportunity to introduce herself because she is answering questions and you all might be wondering, who is this person? So Viveka, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Sorry, yes, I thought I'll sneak in. Hello, my name is Viveka Kudaligam and I'm the Assistant Director for Graduate Programs. I work with everyone here on this panel and I've been taking some time to answer the questions. Yeah, if you see answers from me, that's who I am.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Let me start at the top of the queue. Okay, it looks like John is typing a question there. Let's see. Okay, let's start with Brian Campbell's question. Are there any additional resources, study groups, and tutors for C++ proficiency exam? He got a C+ on the exam, and I think I can crack the next exam with a little more help. Also, if there are no additional resources, do any of the students want to email me and create a study group? That's a fantastic idea. If there is a large response to this question, I'd be happy to provide my email to the study group. So John, any suggestions for other resources students can use to prepare for the proficiency exam?
Yeah, especially for C++ programming, one place to start would be that first MOOC in the specialization sequence. I assume you've already been through the specialization sequence. That first MOOC focuses on C++. And anytime you take a MOOC, you have access to the discussion groups, and you'll continue to have access to those discussion groups. So you might continue to monitor and ask questions in that discussion group. That's a great place to find others that you can work with in a study group. Do we have a Slack channel that's a study group for the proficiency exam? I don't think so. That's not something we've developed, and I could see that easily getting out of hand. So I don't think we have any official channels for a study group, but I think it's a great idea. You should form one, and I suspect that many others would be anxious to participate in that.
Okay. Next question is from Jessica. Can you provide some examples of how the program has opportunities to work with dirty real-world data to build a portfolio of experience as you apply for jobs?
Yeah, each of our classes has projects and exams, and for example, applied machine learning. You're using the standard data sets that are used in the machine learning community. Those are probably cleaned up a bit. We're introducing a new course on deep learning for healthcare that's going to be using healthcare data. We have specific courses on dirty data, and those are data curation and data cleaning. And these are courses that are similar to software engineering classes, but on data instead of software. And so they focus less on programming and more on dealing with real world dirty data and how to clean that up, how to make sure that that noise from measurement and transferring doesn't somehow corrupt your process of data science and analysis. So we cover it in that and in many others. In many others, you have projects. For my data visualization class, I pointed students towards COVID data, and in many cases, that was real world data that needed to be fixed. And but many of the projects are open-ended, and so you can find data sources that are less managed, that are raw and require more cleaning. But that's kind of also the topic of the projects in our data cleaning and data curation classes.
Okay. Let's see, next question. Can you cover the difference between the MCS and MCS-DS? Is there a detailed description of what will be taught in the MCS-DS?
Yeah, those are on our web pages. If you go to the if you go to the MCS web pages, you'll see separate curricula for MCS and MCS-DS. The MCS-DS is just a specific set of classes. The MCS requires 4 areas of computer science. You have to have 1 class in 4 different areas of computer science. It's our breadth requirement. And so those areas could include programming languages and software engineering, or that area could include I think it's high performance computing, and that area could include scientific computing. But for data science, we've identified 4 of our core areas that are specifically important for data science. And so if you want the MCS-DS, then you would complete 1 core course in data mining, database, and information systems. You complete 1 course in cloud computing. You complete 1 course in data visualization, and then 1 course in machine learning. And so those 4 areas of our 7 or 8 areas that are available for you to take your breadth in, those 4 areas are considered important for breadth in data science. And so we've identified those to allow you to specifically focus on data science. You can focus on software engineering with the MCS. We don't have an MCS-SE, but you can take you can set yourself up with a curriculum of courses that satisfies the MCS with courses that focus on software engineering instead, if you want.
Okay. What are the differences between the online and the on-campus MCS program? Degree-wise, is there any difference? Are they the same as an MS in computer science?
So yes, no, and yes. No, yes, no. I've lost track of the questions. So the difference is that on campus, an MCS student can take any of the classes that are available. So there's a wider selection of classes available to you on campus. On campus, it's harder to get into classes. We have limited classroom size, and we have the largest PhD program on campus, and so it's more difficult to get into our classes on campus. There is no difference in the degree. You get the exact same degree. The classes that you take on the platform online, we put upwards of $100,000 of investment in time, effort, and other development into these classes. So they're very, well designed, well-developed classes. And that's not necessarily true of our on-campus classes. So there are some differences. Some students learn better in an on-campus environment, in a classroom environment. Some students learn better in an online environment, and it's up to you to determine what's the best mode of learning for you. And then the difference between the MCS and the MS is that they're both 8 classes. One of the classes in the MS is going to be a thesis research, and you have to write a master's thesis. And that changes a lot of things about the degree, whether you're making an improvement to the state of the art in one particular area or not. The MCS is really geared towards professional preparation. It's not geared towards research. You have the opportunity to come up with new things, but it's not required for the MCS. It is required for the MS. And because of that, we don't have an online MS. The MS requires, close work with an advisor that can direct your thesis research. And if you're going for a PhD, you can get the PhD with you can enter the PhD program with just a bachelor's degree. But if you want to pursue a PhD, we'd recommend, if you want to get a master's degree, it's probably more appropriate to get an MS. But you can, if you get an MCS, you're still eligible to enter a PhD program. It just doesn't provide you with any of the research experience that an MS would.
Okay. Next question will be from Ben. Can a student take more than the minimum required courses for the degree? Could a student take an extra course or 2 for interest beyond the minimum requirement for the degree?
Absolutely. Once you get to 8 courses, you're getting the MCS whether you want it or not, but you're welcome to continue on. You've already been admitted, and so you'll be admitted as a non-degree student, and you can continue to take courses beyond what's required for the degree. And welcome to welcome to Illinois and lifelong learning.
How does this degree program compare to a boot camp in software, immersive, or data science?
Yeah, boot camps are accelerated, but they're very focused, and they're complementary to what we cover in our degree courses. In our degree courses, we don't focus on particular libraries or programming languages. We use these in order to learn the topic, and that's more important to us in a university course. And the reason being is that a boot camp might get you up and running very quickly in a particular area, but that knowledge isn't going to be very effective for very long. And computer science is a fast moving, moves at a fast pace. And we don't want to give you a class, and we don't want to give you an experience that's not going to help you 5 years from now or 50 years from now. And so the courses we teach are based on principles, on fundamentals in a particular topic area. And that's the real deliverable from these courses. Those fundamentals and principles won't change in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years. A boot camp focuses more on the practical nature, and those are the things that will change in 5 years and won't be long lasting.
Okay. Next up, if I do online MCS, do companies consider it equivalent to an on-campus MCS degree, and would it be considered valid for internships?
You're certainly welcome to do an internship. I don't know. I don't know. Vivica or Christine, do you know, is an internship an option for the MCS online?
It is not. It is not an option, but students can always look at available internships out there and apply themselves, but the program itself does not have any internship opportunities.
Right. And so usually you have two options. You do an internship for credit as part of some master's degrees, but that's not available for credit in the MCS degree. But as an MCS student, you're certainly eligible to do an internship. When I was a grad student, I was doing internships every summer. I didn't get any course credit for those internships, but I did those internships and they were quite valuable. So I'd encourage you to look at those if that's an option for you. There's certainly an option for you as an online student, but we don't give course credit for those internships. And I don't believe, do we do that for on-campus students either? I don't recall.
We do not. Well, if there are international students, they have to be enrolled in a class for maintaining visa status. Typically, those are 0 credit hours, so really not contributing towards the degree requirements. But if you're a domestic student in an on-campus program, you're not required to register and it doesn't carry credit.
Yeah. So even for our on-campus students, any internship that you're doing is, it's encouraged, but it's not something that contributes towards your degree. It doesn't count towards the 32 credit hours of the master's degree.
And the other part of that question, I guess, was asking, do employers view the online to be different than the on-campus degree?
Yeah, I can't speak for employers. We're not seeing that impact. We're seeing employers approaching us wanting to send their employees and wanting to get access to our graduates so that they can hire them. Our MCS graduates are sought after by employers overwhelmingly, and they don't make the distinction between online and on campus.
And part of that is likely because it doesn't say on the diploma or the transcript that the courses were taken online too, right? So, okay, next questions. Do the classes involve collaborative projects among the students, or do they tend to be individual projects?
That will vary from class to class. It's up to the instructor. We have some classes that do individual work. We have some classes that have group projects, but it varies.
Okay. Oh, a capstone question. Can you describe more detail what's involved in the capstone courses?
Yeah, I believe we have a data mining capstone and a cloud computing capstone. So for those classes, you would take your 4 core classes, 3 500 level classes. And one of those 500 level classes would be your capstone. So that leaves 1/8 class. That 8th class should be a second class for if you want to take the cloud capstone class, then that 8th class would be another cloud computing class, or in data mining, it would be one of the data mining classes, text information systems or data mining. And so if you take 2 of those classes, then you can take that capstone as one of your 500 level classes. And those give you a chance to come up to speed in the state of the art in a particular area, cloud computing or data mining. And so you'll be reading and presenting papers in these areas to the other students. And you'd really come to the state of the art in those areas, and you'd be prepared to be able to make novel contributions to the state of the art after a class like that.
Okay. Next question. For someone with a non-CS background, but with experience in data structures and introductory coursework on Java, DS, data science and introductory coursework and Java and data structures, what is the likelihood of admission?
As long as you've got those prerequisites, then that gives us what we need to be able to admit you. Really, what we look for is we want to see some transcripted graded coursework up through data structures. And that's really important for us, because we don't want to admit anybody to this program that we don't think can succeed into this program. And we don't want to throw anybody into a graduate level computer science course that doesn't have the background to be able to succeed in that graduate level course. But those prerequisites sound good. But they are important to have undergraduate coursework in computer science, in programming and in algorithms and in data structures, linear algebra and stats and probability. Those are all important for success in the program. So we're very careful about making sure that they're there.
Okay. And this question was addressed in the FAQ, but it keeps popping up. Can existing Coursera MOOC courses that are part of the MCS count towards the degree?
Yeah, they don't count towards the degree. We don't give them too much weight in the application process. We get a lot of students that submit MOOC specializations, and MOOC specializations are great for learning material, but we need something that's transcripted, something like a proficiency exam. We need to see some examination, some way of showing that you know the material instead of just learn the material. So the best way to show that is with transcripted graded credit, or and our data structures, a proficiency exam for that particular data structures class.
Okay. So there was a question posted by Victor that I believe Lisa just answered. And the question was, will all the questions be answered? So Victor, there's like 194 of you. There's 5 of us. There are 72 open questions currently. We are likely not to get every question answered, but if you would like your question answered, please send an email to mcs@cs.illinois.edu, and we will answer it from there. But keep submitting them and we'll keep trying to answering them. Okay.
Data science lesson from Christine.
Let's see. I have graded courses which extensively use the fundamentals of statistics and probability, but no explicit statistic courses. Is that problematic?
For statistics and probability, list what you have. We will take a look at it. And we're a little bit more lenient with that. People get stats and probability and linear algebra from a wide variety of spaces. But for the programming, the CS coursework, we really do want to see graded transcripted credit in those CS prerequisites.
Great. Next question. I'm going to actually have Lisa answer because she deals with this on a regular basis. Currently pursuing online Masters of Computer Science with another university. How many credits can be transferred if admitted into this program? Lisa?
Okay, so up to 12 credit hours can be transferred to the online MCS, MCS-DS. The syllabi have to be reviewed by faculty members in the department to determine the equivalency. However, we do not review any transfer materials until you're admitted to the program and you've already completed 8 hours in residence here. So there's no kind of upfront review. If you're looking for that, you have to actually enroll and complete 8 hours, and then you can have a transfer review.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That is a question we get very often. Okay. What additional prerequisite credits are required for someone without a CS degree?
So there we're looking for for courses in object-oriented programming, data structures, algorithms. You know, we like to see 3 or 4 courses, you know, something up through data structures and a little beyond. In Illinois, we would expect 125, which is a basic programming class, introduction to programming class. 176, I think it is, discrete math, which gets into the theoretical side of computer science, the math that you would use in computer science. 225, which is our data structures class. And then maybe 241, which is a class on systems programming, where you're using library functions, because we use that extensively in our upper division classes. So, you know, you want to have a decent foundation of several computer science classes to make sure that you know, when you get your first assignment in a graduate level computer science class, that you have everything you need in order to be able to tackle it.
Here's a good one. How difficult is it to get the courses you need to complete the degree in a year? Is it super competitive to get into the courses, as some are offered just once a year?
We offer the courses once a year, but in doing so, that means you can complete the degree in 1 year. Typically, depending on when you're starting, if you start in the fall, you might do 3 courses in the fall, 3 in the spring, and then 2 in the summer. But, you know, depending on when you start, you know, that 3 in the fall, 3 in the spring, 3 in the summer schedule can work starting anywhere. And so it's not difficult at all. The program's designed to be able to accommodate that. And our classes, we've been designing our classes for scale. We often have a cap on classes, and then we raise that cap as more students register. And that's so that we have the chance to make sure we've got appropriate TA staffing for each class. We want to make sure that the instructor and the teaching assistants are available for every student, so that each student can get the help with that they need in order to complete the assignments. There'll be many opportunities to interact with the instructor and the teaching assistant through office hours and piazza conversations. And so we want to make sure that there's enough to be able to handle the number of students signed up for a class. But, you know, we have been doing that. And so we've been able to accommodate all the students wanting to get into classes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I have completed an advanced data structures and algorithms course with a letter grade, but it is taught in Python. Do you still recommend the candidate take the data structures proficiency exam? I have also completed an OOP course in C++ with a letter grade.
Yeah, I think that'd be fine then. You wouldn't need to do the proficiency exam. We don't really care what languages these classes are taught in. It's really the principles that we're after.
Okay.
You'll be better off if you know both Python or any scripting language and a production language, and it sounds like you do.
Okay. So next question. There is info on both the Coursera and the program website that states taking one of these open courses or specializations to learn more. So if a student takes a specialization to learn more about the program, instructors, let's see, learn from Illinois MCS degree instructors and complete assignments that give you a head start on the degree courses. And based on this webinar, you said that this will not give us credit when enrolled in MCS. Could you explain further?
Yeah, just completing a MOOC specialization doesn't give you graded transcripted credit for that subject. If you complete the specialization and then take the 4-credit course, there may be some cases where some of the work you did in that specialization can transfer into the course, and we've got that automated. But often there's newer material in our 4-credit courses than is available to the general public. And so you should not do those assignments with the idea that all of those are going to transfer into your 4-credit course, because you're taking a chance, and very often we've got newer assignments in the 4-credit course. But it's a great way to get a heads up, to get a head start on the learning. Just don't do it with the idea that you're going to be getting your major assignments out of the way ahead of time.
Mm-hmm. And then, are students expected to collaborate using Piazza or other platform forums for group projects?
Yeah, and we for group projects or even individually, there's a lot of students that use Slack and Piazza and other communication mechanisms to help each other through these things. We encourage that. And very often we have our on-campus students and our online students that are communicating with each other to help each other out as well. We use the same platforms for both, and so we try to encourage that, and students take advantage of that when they can.
Okay, and then one final question. So there are several questions in the queue about low undergrad GPAs. What would you recommend for these individuals? If they have a low undergrad GPA, what can they do to strengthen their application and increase their chances?
Yeah, the best thing to do is to take some additional coursework in computer science to show us that your proficiency in computer science is greater than that GPA indicates. We'll take a look at your GPA from subsequent coursework and weigh that. We'll also look at computer science GPA and your GPA in your last 2 years. So even if your 4-year GPA is low, it may be that you did better in the last 2 years. So we'll give you every chance we can, but the best thing you can do to fix those is to take more classes.
Okay, so that brings us to 12 p.m. Central Time, end of the webinar. There are still quite a few questions left in the queue, but again, if you would like an answer to your question and we did not get to it, please send us an email at mcs@cs.illinois.edu, and we will respond to you from there. Thank you, John, Vivica, Desiree, and Lisa for joining today and answering questions. And thanks everyone for joining us. We hope to see you maybe in the program.
Thanks for moderating, Christine. That was great. Thanks everybody.
Thank you, Christine.
Looking forward to your
Bye, everyone.